The overall board overarching concept is through an effort of retooling and empowering, retraining, and enfranchising. And I'll explain what I mean that. But we coined that, and when it was discussed at the social partnership level in subgroups, they referred to it as a reprogram. And perhaps someone should write a jingle about it. But what's the overarching tenements? We will try to reduce transfers where possible by enfranchisement. For example, one could think of the bus transport system where in many countries the private sector own that and is regulated by the government. So why it could be a program where you allow a driver and a conductor, some person buy a bus, take the bus off of you. They'll probably run it much more efficient than you can, and you provide the regulatory framework to cover the bus routes, for example. So wherever possible, transferring the services maybe to the workers, etc., letting them purchase it so you can get enfranchised and gain from that. Efficiency gains. There are some areas where 1 or 2 or 3 SOEs are doing exactly the same thing. And by bringing them together and merging them, you get immediately savings and efficiency gains. I'll show you what that looks like. Cost recovery. I always mention that I'm 25 years old, going on 20, and I can't remember the last time that I had a bus fare increase, for example. So one way to look at it is say, what is the we can do on the user fees end in an affordable manner, where you can make it by cost recovery. And that's another tenet we look at. And again, are there commercial services that are being provided by the public sector that can be shifted to the private sector? The private sector absorbs some of those persons that were involved in it and do a much more effective and efficient job. So these are kind of the tenets. And again, the overall idea is not, I stress, not in terms of attaining a number, but in terms of gaining efficiency. I refer to it as doctor of economics, but a medical doctor, you may have a little lump somewhere, and you go to the doctor, you say, well, the problem with you is that you're too obese and you need to get fit. And you can chop off a leg and you will immediately be lighter. But the problem is, the underlying problem remains. So it's not about chopping and cutting, it's about trying to find, you got to go in and analyze every SOE, see what their functions are, see what the process involved, and see how you can gain efficiency. And that's the idea here. I shall mention some tenets. One we expect, because Barbados has been in a very difficult position for a long, long time. The honest truth is that we cannot come out where we are on scale. There will be an adjustment period, and so you have to approach it the government shows an approach in the very way in which they will ensure a caring approach. So there's some of the tenets. There'll be a household mitigation unit set up in the Prime Minister's office to ensure that the burden and any displaced workers are handled in a very caring and compassionate manner. No 2 persons from the same household or breadwinners, for example. There'll be a focus on retraining and reabsorbing in other parts of the private sector where it's needed. And I was told, and the DFE could speak to that the training fund right now for that is quite healthy, and so there are opportunities for retraining. The government will also use sunset clause and affirmative action to ensure that persons where staff, for example, move off and form a business to provide a service, they're able to get preferential treatment in terms of the procurement of goods and services. Some examples, for example, the differently able person under 30 years will be given preferential treatment in provision of certain services. You perhaps could allow for geographical presence. A fellow living in St. Lucie, some workers get together and form some business, will have preferential treatment in geographical provision of service within that area. There's a displaced workers, for example, on the adjustment program that we are designing, will have preferential treatment up to 20% for the entire life adjustment program per year. So you're trying to find a way in which not only you say we're going to set up, for example, you can find separation where 3 or 4 workers get together and provide cleaning services, a part of their business to the company, but you got to ensure that they get business. So this is part of that. You also will be able to, part of the movement on separation, perhaps access the government lands, agricultural lands, with greenhouses to start part of your business and get going with that, and access to license. So different packages are being considered. I should stress that this The economic team make recommendations. It's not make policy. Policy is made at cabinet. So what I'm outlining to you is it's not policies, they are recommendations coming out under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, the BERTS program. We also will be identifying critical transformation activities within the government. For example, we all know, and it's common, we have to digitize the public sector. Everyone here uses their cell phone and all, iPad, and to do almost everything we do. Yet within the public sector, there's a need to digitize the records, to digitize the processes. So there'll be a large digitization project, and the government already approached one of the international development partners, IDB, for financing for that, which should be probably covered 3 years as a part of a broader modernization project. So displaced workers will be fine accessing that, but watch, it doesn't hit your finances because it's being financed from somewhere else. And during that period now, you can use training opportunities because you're transforming the entire public sector to one of fit for purpose. You can use the opportunity to train in many areas in the provision of medical, billing and coding, in the provision of medical transcription and legal transcription, and other areas where we can become, as I say, a more high-value service economy. So this is the tenets of it. We also align ourselves to opportunity investment within Barbados, outside of Barbados, within Carrington. We know the Ross University is setting shop from the beginning of January, and that will be employing a host of Barbadians, and there's training to provide services there. Because there's opportunities within Caribbean, within Guyana and other areas in terms of the Capital Works program. There'll be government Capital Works program will also require provision of services. Like, for example, the government is embarking on a project of roofing protection, or primarily referred to as reef to roof, to ensure that our houses, etc., are more stable and structurally sound in terms of protecting ourselves from any possible hurricane. So this is the general overall framework of what we call the RERE project: retool and empower, retrain and enfranchise. So it's more of a clinical approach to making efficiency in public sector. Before I get back, I will pause on the public sector, just talk about, because the question we saw at the beginning was the growth. How are we going to get growth? And we're going to anchor growth on terms of 5 pillars. One, we're going to begin to invest, the government is beginning to invest in high-skilled, knowledge-based economy, where in order to generate value for value added, provide more ways for the domestic savings to be channeled into those areas where we need investment, local investment, and support startup businesses, entrepreneurship, etc. And use all the assets, the faculties of government, non-fiscal levers, to remove all impediments to growth. Things like, if you look at what businesses mention as impediments to growth or cost of doing business, would be getting town country planning approval, for example, the time it takes to clear. And this is not pointing any finger at anyone. This, you go on the international, the OECD website, you look at doing business indicators, you will see these things apply. You want to be able to clear things through the port faster. You want to be able to get approval to start a business faster. You want issuing a license to be more transparent. You want town country planning approval to be much quicker. So these are things, any bureaucratic process or framework that will impede business have to be addressed, and that's part of that. And of course, we want the diverse economy into new ways and renewable energy, high-tech software development, etc. I would say that, I recall that many years ago, we started to relight the region in terms of solar energy development, but I'm not sure where we are today relative to that, and it hasn't taken off as much as it could have gone. So that's on the growth side. On the financial side, what we're doing, we have done already. One of the problems they have on there in terms of in the past was the continuous financing of the fiscal through the central bank. And so if you're going to be serious, and they got this program is a serious program about being fiscally prudent and fiscally fit, then you have to ensure that there's no temptation for continuous unbridled support in financing from the central bank. And so the government has already reduced what we call the overdraft facility, we refer to as the Ways and Means, from 10% to 7.5%. That's already been done. And then they've already passed law in Parliament to ensure that the central bank, in terms of purchasing primary securities in the primary market, which is a real financing, that is a cap at that, about 10% of expenditures, which is reasonable and is the right way to go in terms of maintaining central bank autonomy and also minimizing over-financing the government. In terms of what also the program does, is try to protect the financial system, all aspects of it, insurance, banks, and all aspects from the debt restructuring impact. So they're doing stress tests and make sure what they define the agreement on debt restructuring is something that can maintain the health of the financial system. All right, how do we ensure that our program is maintained, that the government sticks to itself? The government has invited the International Monetary Fund as a partner to help with the support of the program. And the International Monetary Fund supports countries in primarily three ways. First, that's why we started by explaining the program, because this is Barbados. It's a concept sometimes that the International Monetary Fund comes and give you this and tell you do that. That is so far from the truth, and I know because I'm a staff member. When we go to countries, the country owns the program, they develop the program. Sometimes the fund may get involved in allocating systems on the elements because of the technical expertise or because of the capacity of the country. But at the end of the day, the country owns the program. I can tell you for sure, without fear of contradiction, that what I've just presented to you, the BERT program, is 100% Belgian owned, developed by the Barbados team, and will be implemented by Barbados team, owned by Barbados team. What the IMF comes in and do is ensure that it hangs together, and what they do then is endorse it. By endorsing your Barbados, let's call it the BERTS program for short. By endorsing the BERTS program, the IMF then provides what you call a catalytic role, because it has an international reputation by having 186 countries signed on. And when investors see the fund say, well, this is the BERTS program is a doable program, we believe the country is committed to it, then immediately development partners like IDB and CDB will bring in access to funds. Money is coming in on that. Funds comes in, and I can tell you right now we have commitments from IDB, 2% in GDP, which is 200 million, signing that the IMF endorses the Barbados BERT program, and 100 from CDB. So you see, and then private individuals and investors who have brought in capital to do different projects, but with fear that same thing may happen again, or the fiscal doesn't hold together, or this just wind in the air, nobody really serious. They look and say, well, if the IMF is supporting your program, has endorsed your program, then we've seen in countries, capital comes back. And they come back, and you start to build back. Another way, the second way the IMF provides assistance is that once they endorse the program, and usually because you see they have the problem on the reserves, they provide what we refer to as balance of payment support. So there's some funds come to help to restore your reserves, and that immediately goes to the central bank into reserve to show it up. Again, it offers a measure of confidence, and that's why the International Monetary Fund was set up. We refer to help countries what we call balance of payments difficulties. That's how we measure the reserves on the external side. And the third way is by providing technical support. During the program, the IMF will make available its technical expertise in reviewing whatever the country wants. Its tax system, because they have considerable expertise in this, review the expenditure system, offer you ideas of how you can be more efficient in different areas. So technical support. And we're all familiar with that as Barbadians, because we have CARTAP, the Caribbean Regional Technical System, who go through the regional offering system. So three ways in which the fund comes in. But let me make it clear, the fund doesn't come and tell you what to do. In fact, I said earlier that we are going to hit 6% primary balance by in next 18 months, by the end of the fiscal year in 1920. That then becomes a target. The IMF then uses that as what you call a condition. So a criteria, it says, well, you say you're going to meet it, so put that as a target. So the broad underlying parameters of your program, the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation program, becomes the targets which you agree with the International Monetary Fund that we will hit, which is a good thing, because you need, if you're going to, and all of us, if you have a problem, you have to do an intervention, you need a partner to help you, right? If you want to go to AA, that way you have AAs and all these things. So this gives seriousness to what the Barbados government is doing, what the team is doing. And this, what I mentioned here, some of the criteria which program will be judged upon. Will be held of the Barbados government will be held to the fire in terms of meeting the primary balance, ensuring that the reserves are built back comfortably over a period of time, and that we do not accumulate any further arrears. You must meet your, and government is committed to doing that in this program, meeting the current on payments and develop a program to clear your past arrears within the 4-year period. These are things that the work program built into it, and the government itself sets for itself, and therefore become part of the target. So that's kind of monitoring. The other thing I would say is that the overall oversight and monitoring